The LEGO Harry Potter games are amazing, but fans always debate about which one is better. With the LEGO Harry Potter collection being released for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Steam, it is the perfect time to look back on these games again. So in this video, I'm going to be going through both games and seeing which one is better. Thanks to TT Games and Warner Bros. Games for sending me a copy of the game. Before we start, I will be comparing these two on 5 main aspects: levels, spells, characters, the hub world, and story, starting with the levels. Now, if you watch my series where I 100% every LEGO video game, you may know that I'm not really a big fan of the levels in years 1 through 4. I don't think any of them are particularly bad, they just lack a lot of substance. Most of them are pretty short, which made them forgettable to me. The cutscenes and activities you do in the hub world stand out a whole lot more, and have so many memorable moments. While the levels all just sort of blend together, it doesn't help that they reuse areas over and over again, with the female bathroom being used 4 times. I feel like the levels from the first 2 films suffer from this the most, and puzzles for them are held back because you only have access to 2 or 3 spells. The 3rd and 4th films are a lot better when it comes to unique locations and puzzles, since you have so many new spells. But speaking of spells, everything just relies on them, which affects a lot of the puzzles. Everything is pretty much solved with a zap of the wand, just this time using this spell instead of that one. You go into every level zapping different things until something happens, and then moving on. While it's still pretty fun because of the LEGO game format, I think in comparison to other LEGO games, it's not as engaging. The levels in 5 through 7 on the other hand are a huge improvement. You'll go through so many locations in one level, and they try to utilize every scene possible and turn it into a fun cutscene or puzzle. Characters have more abilities that aren't tied to using their wand, which makes the puzzles more engaging by giving you more to do. You can interact with so many things in the environment, like the Potter Pal reference. And fun stuff like that goes a long way to make the levels more memorable. Every level just feels so massive because of the many locations and more engaging mechanics. Instead of zapping different objects with different spells until something happens, you use your spells and abilities to make progress throughout the level. One of my favorite levels is Love Good Lunacy, because of the pop-book aesthetic of the location, and you have to switch through different characters to complete the level. One of the characters lets you play as a dead fiance, which is pretty cool. You use your spells in creative ways during the process, and spells this time don't just rely on you zapping objects. Sometimes you'll need to carve something out, or fill something with water. 5 through 7 pretty much fix my main complaints of 1 through 4's levels. Spells are a mechanic exclusive to these games. Both these games are built around these 8 spells, with all of them offering different abilities. The first spell you learn in 1 through 4 is Wingardium Leviosa, which lets you move and build LEGO objects. Lumos lights up the tip of your wand and damages Devil's Snare. Immobilis puts people in pixies and bubbles. Ridiculous banishes Bogarts. Expecto Patronum banishes Dementors. Reducto destroys silver LEGO objects. Your green spell acts as an alternative ability, like letting some characters turn into their pets, or Harry's invisibility cloak. If you're a dark arts wizard, it is the Killing Curse. The red spells are extra spells that are just there for fun, like being able to turn other people into an animal or make them bald. 5 of these spells just involve you shooting at different obstacles. While technically Ridiculous and Expecto Patronum are different spells, they are executed in the same way. It gives you the illusion of spell choice. This wouldn't be as bad if the wand wasn't the only ability in the game. This also reduces the options for puzzles. I think each spell should stand out on its own, like a spell that allows you to make vines that you can use to climb up to high objects, or allows you to teleport to specific areas. Although the spells are simple to use, I think it makes for an easy and addictive gameplay experience that carries throughout the whole game. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. 5 through 7 got rid of Immobilis and Ridiculous, and reworked Wingardium Leviosa. So instead of having to switch the spell to build and move LEGO objects, now you can use it no matter what spell you're on. Not only is it a great change, but it opens up 3 new options for spells. To fill those spots, there is Augmente, which lets you shoot water from your wand and get rid of fires. Defendo slices red LEGO walls, and then use those pieces to build into something else. Focus lets you control others or show someone's thoughts. I think 5 through 7 did a good job at adding new and unique spells. They allow for a variety of different objects to be introduced. The spells they keep from 1 through 4 are good options, considering they are used very frequently throughout the Harry Potter franchise. This game only improved the spell system in my opinion, just by having more creative spells, even if Focus is used only once or twice throughout the whole story mode. It's cool that it has multiple functions. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a fan of the characters in these games. It has nothing to do with the Harry Potter movies or books. Because of the wand spell system, most characters do the same thing, and if they don't use magic, the character ends up being worthless. But ghost characters are pretty cool because I like to freeze people. A lot of the roster is just filled with fluff. There are a bunch of random characters added to make this game have more collectibles. Some examples are boy, girl, milkman, vocalist, bus driver. Like, these are just jobs and genders. These aren't exclusive to the Harry Potter universe, and they don't have any abilities, so playing as them is useless. Also, the main characters are repeated in the grid, just in different clothes. They offer no new abilities, so there isn't any reason to play as them, unless you want to be Ron in his underwear. Unlocking characters is unrewarding, because most don't offer something new. Once you unlock a character that uses dark arts, there's nothing unique to access. In a fictional world with tons of magical and fantastical creatures, why is the character roster filled with just people? My problems with 1 through 4 is that the character designs are just kind of ugly. They're based off the 2006 wave of Harry Potter sets, because the development started before the 2010 release that had the new designs. Notably, Hermione and Ron look unsettling, both over-detailed and under-detailed, making them a weird, ambiguous age, where they are both elderly and a baby at the same time. The worst victim of this condition is Cat Hermione. She looks disturbing, like she's stuck mid-transition in an Animorphs book. On the other hand, Victor Crumb as a shark is pretty cool. He does backflips. Do I need to explain myself? 5 through 7 managed to fix some of the character ability issues. Some characters have exclusive abilities like Hermione's bag and Ron's Illuminator. While playing the game, you can find Weasley boxes and Spectre specs, giving some characters new abilities and more reasons to use some characters over others. Dueling is exclusive to 5 through 7, although it's not that fun. It gives the characters more to do. And the character designs look so much better in this game. But at the end of the day, I'm going to play as like 4 characters in this whole roster, so I love the hub world in both of these games. Having so many lessons and activities you must do while playing the story mode is such a cute and creative way of telling the story. It's what keeps these games unique from other LEGO games. What you do in the hub world feels just as important as what you do in the levels, or more. These games are so immersive because the hub world is constantly changing depending on where you're at in the story mode, and your characters are progressing by learning new spells. It feels as if you're an actual student at Hogwarts. 1 through 4 and 5 through 7 are so totally different, which is representative of the films and books they're based on. In 1 through 4, you're first introduced to Hogwarts and things seem so happy and exciting. And in 5 through 7, you're given more freedom and allowed to go outside of Hogwarts. And things feel a bit darker now that you're older and more familiar with this hub. I think that exploring Hogwarts in 1 through 4 is a bit more enjoyable, although it's kind of confusing and disorientating. I think that's probably how it would feel if you've just entered a wizarding school. But nothing could beat the first time you're able to set foot in the free roam. And because 5 through 7 are just so familiar, I'll get back to that later, it just doesn't really hit the same way 1 through 4 does. 1 through 4 has so many more secrets to find in the hub world. You can also go inside more classrooms, and all of the common rooms. The hub has this surreal feeling to it that is just hard to describe. Like all of the weird dancing skeletons or just random stuff you'll find in this hub. It's nonsensical, but you don't really question it. While it's still present in 5 through 7, you can definitely tell they had an intentionally serious vibe. Not saying it's a bad thing, honestly these hub worlds are both great for their own reasons. It's about what you prefer. When I first sat down to play these games again, I was surprised just how much bigger 5 through 7's hub world was. Until then, I thought a lot of stuff from 5 through 7, like Platform 9 3/4 and Hogsmeade, was present in 1 through 4's hub. While some classrooms and stuff were removed, they make up for it with all the new areas you could explore. It also makes sense as you become older, you're given more responsibility, and are allowed to leave Hogwarts and explore beyond, which is representative of the main characters' ages. 5 through 7's new areas are Hogsmeade, Hogsmeade Station, Platform 9 3/4, London, and the Forest of Dean. Even Diagon Alley is put into a new up-close camera perspective, which I think better captures what it's like to walk between the cramped store-filled road. Some of the activities you do in the hub world will bring you to whole new areas. Like when Harry uses focus on Snape, you get to play as Harry's dad and bully a younger Snape. You go through an older version of Hogwarts, and I think it's super cool they made this whole new area just for this one segment of the game. The progression of the hub world is way more apparent in 5 through 7 as well. During the Deathly Hallows, Hogwarts is emptied and buildings are destroyed. There's also this cool rainy version of London, which feels more accurate. I love both these hub worlds because they represent their respective years so well. They could have easily just reused the same hub world without adding anything new for 5 through 7. Instead, they purposely reorganized it to show the growth of the main characters and their change in perspective as they age. Online, I see a lot of people say that despite the quality of life changes that 5 through 7 made of the levels in hub world, that 1 through 4 is better because they enjoy those films more, which I think is a fair thing to say. The story these games tell set the whole tone and direction for the overall game, and if you prefer the stories being told in 1 through 4 over 5 through 7, then it would make sense you would enjoy the first game more. But I think it's fair to criticize that mindset as well, because the Harry Potter franchise and just franchises in general have an issue with nostalgia. If you look at any type of modern merchandise made for Harry Potter, you'll notice that there is a bias towards the earlier films. Even though the Deathly Hallows are over 10 years old, you hardly see toys or anything released for it today. Not a lot of people talk about the films that correlate with years 5 through 7. I don't know what Harry Potter fans think, I'm just coming from a general audience perspective. If you were 10 years old when the first film was released, you would have been 17 by the time the 5th one came out. The audience's interest has faded. Maybe it's a bit different for the release of Deathly Hallows, since they were marketed like crazy, cause they were the final part. The earlier films were something most people watched when they were a kid, so it will retain some bias through their nostalgia. What I'm trying to say is that I think when people say that they prefer 1 through 4 because of the connection to the movies, it is not a valid criticism because it is based on a cognitive bias. This rosy retrospective is more about missing their childhood than the games. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. It is 100% possible that you prefer those stories more, because of their comfortable pacing and their cheerful mood. And even if your preference is carried by nostalgia, that's completely okay. I just needed to rant a little. I think the stories in these games do a good job of representing very different times in these students' lives. Every aspect of them reflects this with their development of the spells and changing of the hub world. And the games being the same but also different feels like such an intentional decision, because they have to capture the passage of time and the way school life changes as you get older. A significant amount of time is spent in schools as you grow up, and middle school seems so distinct from high school. In 1 through 4, the characters are at an age comparable to middle school. The game does a good job of capturing the childlike wonder of the discovery of a magic school. It has a feel-good tone and spends time celebrating holidays like Christmas, which is absent when we get into high school. The characters are young and learning new and essential skills. Although there are dark moments, the story overall is filled with charm and sweetness. It represents how we look back on our childhood with rose-colored glasses. 5 through 7 on the other hand captures high school, and although you're still a kid, you're starting to feel ambitious. You're given more responsibilities, and tasks complete as you approach adulthood. You're using what you learned in the past to help guide you, but also learning new things along the way. I think high school is filled with a lot of fear. These are the last few years giving you a direction in your life before you need to decide that for yourself. In 5 through 7, the same world you see in 1 through 4 darkens, and instead of a reintroduction, you feel like you're returning to a familiar place. You're given less classes, and your tasks shift towards helping other characters. They're figuring out more about their lives and are more individualized. You can tell the characters have matured. In comparison to 1 through 4, the atmosphere in the cutscenes and levels is depressing as you look at the ruined and gray campus. The story feels bloated and heavy with the weight of their approaching final dramatic conclusion. Now that I think about it, it's funny that this video is about LEGO games. Now, which LEGO Harry Potter game do I think is better? Based on the categories I chose, 5 through 7 had improved upon what was introduced in 1 through 4, but I don't think it's that simple. Picking one over the other undoes what makes these games so special. Both of them do what they set out to do. Looking at them as separate games, sure, there are things they both do that are better than the other, but as a series, they're a complete package. It's impressive that 5 through 7 feels like a new game when it has the same mechanics as 1 through 4. While it probably wasn't intentional, it feels like the eras these games are divided into are very purposeful. There is a reason to play these games, because they just feel so different from other LEGO games. Harry Potter is a coming-of-age novel with a great universe. When adapting it into a video game, the developers have to capture the compression and expansion of times from the books as well as the growth of characters, and the realities of life at school, which is different from the challenges in adapting other stories like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. A lot of LEGO games are based on films that have a lot of action, and take physical journeys as they explore new worlds. This progression is easier to adapt into levels with distinct battles and stages. Having to capture characters that grow as much as developing children, and watching the perspective and worlds change requires a lot of experimentation in the video game format. A reason why LEGO games are loved is because it allows you to live in and explore the worlds of your favorite franchises from the perspective of those characters. This game utilizes the plot in a way that feels familiar, but all new to the LEGO video game format. The LEGO Harry Potter games represent such an important spark from the developer TT Games that I think is really important. But yeah, thanks again to TT Games and Warner Bros. Games for sending me a copy. If you have any thoughts or opinions on which one you think is better or what you thought about what I said, let me know. I am definitely up to discuss this. And I hope all of you watching have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.